The moment of truth, it is here.
We're not going to ask for a favor, so we were not on a begging mission. Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals.
African leaders have to face their fears once for all by addressing the Western, which was presented in a couple of countries over there. And the President of Republic of South Africa had a nail it when he get the courage to face about how they've been fooling Africans with all this summit time to time, yet there is no result. The President of Republic of South Africa, President Cyril, had to expose the mafia of the Western. Guys, you are not going to believe this, but I'm inviting you first to have a listen to what President Ramaphosa had said before we get to continue with more analysis.
Beggars that we are being dealt with out of generosity. I think it's important in the new era that the world is in now that there should be a good measure of equality among sovereign nations. You know, recently, 7 African countries decided to go and put a call for peace to Ukraine and to Russia. And we raised a number of issues. To us, this is very important. Our sovereignty is one of the things that we hold on dearly to. We were clear that we are not going there as beggars. We are not going to ask for a favor to both Ukraine and Russia. So we were not on a begging mission, even as we are in great need as a continent and all that. That should go to demonstrate that Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals. Even in the multilateral institutions, we want to be treated as equals. And if our equity is at a low ebb, there must be ways in which that can be addressed. I wanted to make that point so that it should be understood where Africa has evolved up to. We want to be key players on the world stage. President Macron wants us to address another issue which to us is a bit of a negative. You will have heard President Sisi talking about the 100 billion that was promised in Paris. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday as well also spoke about it at the dinner. Now there is that issue that a number of the commitments that have been made have not really been fully lived up to. But there have been times when we felt like we were beggars. I played a key role as chair of the African Union during the COVID period. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability, when we felt we needed access to vaccines, and the Northern Hemisphere countries had bought all the vaccines in the world, and they were hogging them. And they didn't want to release them at the time when we needed them most. And we felt like we were begging. And at times it felt like they would just be droppings from the table, that yes, we will give you that and that. And let me tell you something that generated a lot of resentment. We resented that, and it got worse when we said we want to manufacture our own vaccines. And when we went to the WTO, there was a lot of resistance, enormous resistance. And we kept saying, what is more important, life or profits by your big pharmaceutical companies? And that too, I must tell you now, generated and deepened that disappointment and resentment on our part, because we felt like life in the Northern Hemisphere is much more important than life in the global South. And these are issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that we are all seated here like this, because we've got to get to the heart of these matters and address them.
You know, this kind of speech, it is the kind of the speech that Africans need in general. When we get to see our African leaders having this kind of courage to speak in behalf of Africans, this is kind of the speech that can rejoice the heart of Africans. This is kind of the spirit Africans people need at the moment, especially when it comes towards the Western with their mafias. I'm so proud to see how African leaders are now understanding what we've been saying time to time in our videos and what you guys have been engaging through the comment. Your message goes out there and African leaders, they get to listen to it. This is very interesting to hear. When President Ramaphosa, sitting in front of Emmanuel Macron, who's the president of France, and the Chancellor of Germany, they get to listen to this kind of message. Finally, Africa continent is awake. Finally, African leaders can now start speaking the same language as all Africans. Finally, our forefathers who had fought so hard for the independence of the African continent can now start rejoicing, knowing that what they had fought for, it is about to be realized by this new generation of Africans.